Are you in a trauma bond? Hopefully not. Hi, my name is Dr. Courtney Tracy. This is the Truth Doctor Show. I am known as the Truth Doctor. Thanks for coming back. If you've been here before, if this is your first time, I talk about the world through a mental health lens, using pop culture and the media as my medium. Today, I'm answering the question, are you in a trauma bond? Let's start off first with what is a trauma bond? A trauma bond is when you are attached to your abuser and experiencing a cycle of abuse. Usually you stay bonded to the person that is abusing you, neglecting you, or otherwise traumatizing you because there's positive reinforcement. After the abuse, the neglect, or the trauma goes away, we feel better. There's apologies that take place. The love comes back. The person says that they regret how they were acting. They promise that it won't happen again. And that feeling of safety returns. So it's this cycle of being abused, neglected, or traumatized, then waiting it out and waiting for that same person that was doing those behaviors to you to then make you feel better and make you feel like it's not going to happen again. The term trauma bond first came into existence in 1997 by Dr. Patrick Carnes. I don't know. But he defined trauma bonding as dysfunctional attachments that occur in the presence of danger, shame, or exploitation. Before him, the only other term that was used to describe situations like this was Stockholm syndrome. And this is the same situation where you are in a relationship or bonded with someone in some way where they are affecting you in a negative way. Again, neglect, abuse, or trauma. And then they're also the ones giving you the repair. The most common situations where trauma bonds occur are domestic violence, kidnapping, sexual abuse, human trafficking, elder abuse, and cults. Here are some signs that you may be in a trauma bond. Now, right off the bat, what I want to say is these signs could be applied in many different relationships, many different friendships, and many different family dynamics. Just because these signs seem familiar to what you may be experiencing, it doesn't mean you're in a trauma bond. But if you are being abused, neglected, or traumatized and feel like this cycle is familiar to you, then here may be some additional signs that you can look out for. The first one is that you cover up their behavior for them over and over and over again. Somebody may say, well, this person treats you like this. Why do you let them treat you like this? And you say things like, well, it doesn't happen all the time, or it doesn't last as long, and things of that nature. The next sign is that you actually lie to others and potentially to yourself unconsciously that the behavior is even occurring.
Maddie woke up 3 hours early, applied more concealer than a burn victim, and tried her best to cover up.
Understand, Mommy, he didn't do it.
Then who did?
It wasn't Nate.
Maddie, stop lying.
I'm not lying.
Often when we are in a trauma bond and we are in a relationship where we're being abused or neglected or traumatized, and we want to stay in the relationship, we can tell ourselves that it's not that bad, that it's normal behavior, that it's common, that they don't mean it, or we can start to justify the reasons why we know that they're doing what they're doing. So, oh, it was their childhood or their past relationship partner was like this or like that. And we start to give reasons and excuses for the ways that we're being treated, especially because it doesn't happen all the time. And then the last one to look out for is if you're actually afraid. If you spend some moments in your relationship afraid, whether that's emotionally afraid, physically afraid, sexually afraid, or afraid to even go out and start to try to live your own life. If there's fear in a relationship, like I just mentioned, and then there's also really good times, and you find yourself very attached or bonded to this person, it could be a trauma bond.
But that's not what really happened, is it? Oh, shit. What are you doing in my memory? It's my memory too, dummy. First of all, those weren't violinists. And you weren't dancing with Joker. And it wasn't an engagement ring. But
often we stay because we have some positive feelings towards this person. Maybe the behavior didn't start in the beginning of the relationship. Maybe the honeymoon phase was really good. Maybe the makeup is really good as well. It's not like we're weak. It's not like it's our fault that we find ourselves bonded to people that are traumatizing us. It's actually part of the human condition. It's not adaptive and it's not necessarily healthy, but there are reasons why we do it. Some of the reasons could be that we are being psychologically manipulated. We actually believe that this is normal behavior. We actually believe that it's going to get better. And sometimes it can get better. Me and my husband were in a trauma bond. We've been together for over 16 years. And I would say that about half of our relationship relationship, maybe like 8 to 10 years, the first 8 to 10 years, we were absolutely in a trauma bond. We were not treating each other well. We were unconsciously harming each other and then enjoying when we came back together for the honeymoon phase. And it was really tumultuous and really dangerous. It was not a healthy relationship at all. And now I have one of the most healthy relationships I could ever imagine myself having. But that's because we both did a lot of work. I'm not somebody that's going to sit here and tell you that it can't get better, but most often it doesn't. But there is hope and it can happen. But we really still need to be careful. Are we taking care of ourselves the way that we should be when we should be? I think that me and my husband should have spent a lot more time apart than we did when we were in this phase of our relationship. So please keep that in mind. So how do you break the bond? One of the most important things is to have a plan for safety. If there's actually neglect, abuse, and traumatization or exploitation going on in a relationship, the person who is engaging in those behaviors onto you may know and may not know what's going on, may be wanting to work on it, may not be wanting to work on it. Either way, there is some type of benefit that they're getting consciously or unconsciously from treating you the way that they are. And when you have left that relationship, they're going to struggle because the cycle, they exist in the cycle too. And there's going to be difficulties of them not having an outlet for that behavior or them feeling uncomfortable being out of the cycle as well. And if it is an unsafe situation, then it could become even more unsafe once you try to leave. So a plan for safety is really important. Talking to the people closest to you, letting them know what's going on if they don't know, if you've been lying or hiding it out of fear, or if they do know, then hopefully they're ready to be there to support you. So finding a close support system that understands what it is that you're going through, and also checking into other types of safety as well. Financial safety, housing safety, safety for your children or the other people around you, and so on. My next piece of advice would be to get therapy. And if you can't afford therapy, then to find a community of people online or in person that have been through what you've been through and can be a support for you as well, in addition to that close family or friend group that you are having be the beginning of your safety circle as well. Also, positive self-talk and moving your body. I know that that sounds ridiculous, positive self-talk, but it's really, really important to help shift and reprogram the systems inside your brain, because for so long you were in the cycle of things are going really good, I'm happy and I'm treated like a good person, and now things are going really bad and I'm treated like a bad person and not worthy of respect, care, or love. And you need to be able to replace that cycle of positive, negative with positive. You deserve to find that you can feel more free, more healthy, and more happy more often than you thought that you could when you were in this bond. Also, moving your body is really important when we experience abuse, neglect, exploitation, or traumatization. We feel it in our bodies too. And talk therapy often is not enough. And if we're being physically or sexually abused in this trauma bond, or we were kidnapped, or it's human trafficking, if it's those types of situations, our body is absolutely involved. And it's important that we work on the trauma patterns that are found in our body from our neck down, as well as the ones from our neck up. The last thing that I want to leave you all with is an understanding of what happens often in relationships when we go back to somebody that we didn't necessarily want to go back to, but now we find ourselves going back to them. We have to replace the positive parts of that relationship and that person. Usually when we're leaving a relationship, we write a list of cons, all the reasons why we do not want to go back into this relationship. But often what we forget is that the cons aren't what make us go back into this trauma bond. It's the positives of the trauma bond that make us go back. So I'm not saying go and replace the positive aspects of your previous partner with a new partner right away, but to make a cons list and to make a pros list, and then find ways to replace those pros. Like, for example, maybe in the beginning of your relationship, you enjoyed cuddling and watching Netflix or going out to the movies or whatever it was, or cooking at home with one another. When you leave the relationship, you may miss those aspects as well. So finding a friend that you can engage in those things with, or learning to engage in those things by yourself, can be helpful. We need barriers to prevent us from going back to the good parts of the relationship that was actually a trauma bond. Let me know, have you ever been in a trauma bond? Do you know someone that's been in a trauma bond? What has it felt like? Are you in one now? And how are you getting yourself out of it? Or how have you in the past? I will answer any comments as much as I can, just knowing that this is not going to be therapy or exact clinical advice for your specific situation. Thanks so much for being here. I hope this was helpful. And as always, I am glad you exist.